So based on this process of sort of identifying some traits of the slippers and then applying those traits to things that we see in our own lives, do you think we could try another one, maybe with the beams or the yellow brick road, and see if we can identify anything else? And by the way, does anyone agree that, or think that the slippers might symbolize any of these things? Morality? Okay. And the great thing about symbols is, because I was thinking, to me, they represented money. Everybody wants it. It gives us an edge, makes us popular and known. But the great thing about symbols in stories is that it can be morality as well, because as long as you can find correlations to life, that they're legitimate. I mean, there's no right or wrong answers in literature. Okay, so on the, if you can remember any of your potential symbols from, let's try your story, Drew and Tom, from Jack and the Beanstalk, which one would you want to try?
I like the beans.
The beans? Okay.
Beans.
Okay, so what are some of their traits? What can we say about the beans?
They're magical.
They're magical. And just so we know, for anybody who hasn't read the story in a while, Jack, he trades something of known value for these beans, which he's told have value, so he doesn't really know. He takes a chance on them. So
I would say potential.
potential.
Anything like a seed could become something. But on the other side of the same coin, I guess, is the fact that kind of like being duped is what the perception was
Okay.
from most people.
So potential, and then the potential for gain, but also for loss, right?
Because people, like his mother, thought he was, others thought he was foolish. Well, they also are at risk, I guess.
Right?
Yeah, potentially serious risk.
Definitely. Okay,
There's an opportunity.
opportunity.
Adventure.
They're undervalued.
Maybe the beans are, obviously everybody would have them if
Right.
they had the opportunity, so maybe they, not, in a little bit like the undervalued, but maybe the rare or hard to get, uncommon. I'm thinking more monetarily, but like, only rich people have certain things, so they can make more money, so maybe somehow they're rare.
Okay. So, is that, anybody have anything else? I don't think I do. Okay, so we know we have beans in the story, and they're something we remember. They're an integral part of the story, even though it's hard for us to pinpoint why. So we know they presumably are magic. They represent potential. gain or loss, risk, opportunity, adventure. And they are supposedly something that are very rare, but on the surface they have no value. So, anyone care to extrapolate on how those things might funnel into a theme in the story? Pat?
Maybe taking a chance.
I'm taking a chance. Totally taking a chance.
Maybe not judging a book by its cover.
Great. I might say for me, faith. Anything else? Okay. So, we just read a story called Life in the Iron Mills that is very rich with symbolism. And we have not yet talked about the symbols in the story or tried to identify them, but when we do, I would like you to maybe offer some suggestions to me here and now on how we're going to go about, first of all, identifying potential symbols, and secondly, trying to interpret what they mean. So what would our process be? Elizabeth?
Look for something that is integral to the story and is possibly often repeated throughout.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Excellent. Kyle?
Mine goes along with the initial, like something that's a big focus throughout the story.
Okay. Anything else? Sometimes they're described in fairly detailed, in a great amount of detail. Say they're just described and repeated, like Elizabeth said. They're visual. When we initially see these potential symbols in the story, do they seem important to us when they're woven into the text?
Not always. Sometimes it's like they're saying often repeated, so maybe when somebody repeats something or they describe it in more detail than compared to other things.
Okay.
So sometimes that's the only subtlety you can find if it's that important.
Okay. Anything else? So once we identify, by using our checklist, they seem important in the story, but it's not obvious why, because sometimes they're beans, they're small things, they're shoes, they're, a road. But they appear often, they're sometimes described in great detail, they're a visual thing, and we think they might stand for something else. So how do we then find out or try to decide for ourselves what they might represent?
Well, the repeated references make it more apparent because, like Dorothy goes into this yellow brick road. Why isn't it just a road?
try to identify its traits, maybe? Okay. Okay, do you want to try one more?
Sure.
I really do, yeah, of course. Okay, so we've done the 2 stories. What about, maybe one we haven't done? What about the glass slipper and Cinderella? Shoes tend to be symbols a lot in stories, by the way. So do we want to try the slipper? Do we want to identify some traits of the slipper?
I got one, or maybe a glass slipper will give you a path to fame, riches, wealth, prince or princessly stuff, where regular ones would just give you the normal path.
Right. So they'll take you places, right? Okay.
They're glass, they're special.
Okay.
They're unique in how fragile they are.
Unique and very fragile.
They're magical.
And you kind of like the ruby slippers that they're coveted because everyone wants them. So
Right.
we did.
Very much so, yeah. Coveted, and they encourage corruption, just like the ruby slippers did. So I guess we now know that shoes are, we can home right in on shoes if we're stumped on what the symbolism might be in the story, we can look there too, look there first. Okay, do you think they symbolize the exact same thing as the ruby slippers, or do you think they have their own meanings in Cinderella?
Well, if you compare the two, Dorothy really didn't care about the fact that she had them for a status where, and I don't think Cinderella in the same way, she just enjoyed being in that realm, I suppose, with the prince and all that.
Right. So they were sort of the ticket out of, maybe out of living in poverty.
I think Cinderella understood that more than Dorothy did.
Okay, yeah, okay.
As far as the shoes to Dorothy, I think in comparison to her, made her feel like she was more special.
Okay. So if they would take you somewhere, would you say maybe it would translate into some sort of high hopes, aspirations, ambition? Okay. Anything else?
I think it kind of depends on what character you look at, because for Cinderella, hope and aspiration is what she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the prince, who also had the slipper,
Right.
for him, it would be love.
What about for the sisters?
Like, fame and fortune.
Great.
Yeah.
Anything else? Glass shoes. Okay, so I think we get the idea, right? We maybe can, when we talk about Life in the Iron Mills, you can start thinking for your homework about some of the visuals in the story that repeat. And try to think about what they mean to you. And then when we meet again, we'll continue the discussion.